Welcome back to another episode of Breathe More. I am so excited for today's episode because you get to meet one of my clients, Kate. We've been working together, I guess, since the pandemic. That's when you came across my work. But the reason why I wanted to talk to Kate is because she is such a beautiful example of what it means to love yourself, in my opinion, to make a decision, a commitment to yourself and have follow through. And she's always been such an inspiration. I have always been blown away by her dedication to her healing, to her dreams. And I wanted all of you to meet her because I think so many of you can relate to a lot of her circumstances and use her life basically as an inspiration, as something, as proof for your brain that no matter what our circumstances are, we can still take action towards our goals. So, Kate, welcome to the Breathe More podcast.
Thanks so much, Anna. That was like such a nice introduction. I appreciate hearing all these kind things.
You're so welcome. So let's go back in time. And how did you even come across my work? If I remember correctly, you were one of the most consistent participants of my free offering community gathering during the pandemic.
Yes. So at the time, my cousin actually lived out in LA and she was very familiar with you and what you do. And I was really struggling during the pandemic. I was considered an essential worker and I was working close to 80 hours a week. And my son had to live with his dad because it was a time when we didn't really know what was going on. And so since I was going into work every day, it was safer for him to be away. And that was just not how our life had been. So everything was very upside down and scary. And my cousin had reached out and said, I think that you would really benefit from coming to community gathering. And so I went the first time and it was just a mind-blowing change for me, just reconnecting with my breath and having a community, even though we couldn't all be in the same place together, we were sharing the same time and that felt very secret.
That was a really special time. Even though the pandemic, there was just so much tragedy and fear and devastation, basically, that happened when so many families, but there were so many gifts that came out of it as well. And for me was being able to share breathwork with so many folks because so many of us were trapped in our house. And it also gave us the opportunity to really reflect on our life and to see how happy are we or what's working, what isn't, and do I need to make changes? And it was beautiful to see so many people lean into breath work, even though a lot of folks didn't know what it was. And especially the way that I hold space, I always joke around and say, if you're thinking you're coming to be relaxed in my class, that's not going to happen. There'll be a moment, perhaps, of relaxation, but I really hold space for you to do self-reflection and to move energy and to heal so that that lightness that people aspire to feel is deep rooted. And it's not just like a temporary relief where it can be some of that as well. But through my channeling and through my prompts, we dig deep. And so I just want to celebrate you as well for making the time, given how many hours you were working a week, that you still hopped on live and breathed in community. It's so good.
Oh, it was such a special time. It was definitely a highlight from the pandemic. It just was so good to connect with people. So I was really grateful for that opportunity and that chance.
And then from there, I really got to know you even better when you joined my Dream Bigger Mastermind last year. Around this time, actually.
I was going to say, it was just about a year ago. Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, my Dream Bigger Mastermind is a 6-month program, group coaching program, where it's for anyone who has desires, goals, and wants to be in community and wants the accountability, but recognizes, okay, I have these desires. For some reason, they haven't fully realized just doing it on my own. And I'm recognizing that there might be some beliefs there that are blocking me, or I want to do this work in community. And so you're someone who said yes, although I don't think it was like a hell yes, I want to join. I think it was like, oh, do I have the time? Do I have the money? Like, right?
It was a
Let's be real.
in a perfect world, it'd be a hell yes. But but I was a little apprehensive. I had a lot on my plate at the time. I had just been coming off working a job that I really wasn't well fitted for, and I was working a lot of hours with that. And I had just started a new job, and some of the realities of that huge shift, it was a complete career change, were terrifying. So there was that going on. My son does have special needs, and there was a lot going on with both his emotional and physical health. And I just was feeling very burnt out. And I was like, I don't know if I want to commit to doing more. But we had that call. And by the end of it, I was like, you know what? This is really important. This is something I need to do for me. And the money will work itself out. The time will work itself out. I just need to make the commitment.
Yes. So there's all these life reasons that I think a lot of folks have on why they don't sign up for a program or seek out the support. In addition to having a son with special needs, you're also a single mom. So it's not like you have the additional support to count on a partner to carry some of this weight. And you work full time. And yeah, as you mentioned, like you were starting a brand new job that you had to learn a lot of new stuff. And all of that can be super overwhelming for anyone and everyone. Yet the fact that you said yes to yourself, I think says a lot about you. And also, you were doing the evening mastermind, which for you,
Yes.
you're on the East
Yes.
Coast. So it was like 9 p.m. for you. So not only did you already work a full day and mom duties and all of that, you still dedicated once a week your night to yourself. And it was wonderful just to see you blossom. Feels kind of corny to say, but truly like thinking back to October when we started your mastermind last year and the contraction in your energy in your body, there's still a light inside of you of not giving up and knowing there must be another way. There must be more to life than just like my 9 to 5 and my current reality. And so every week, just seeing you show up, not only were you so open and trusting with us, which is something that I really love, that our sessions kind of become like group therapy. And everybody is so vulnerable with each other. Like once that safety is established and that trust, we start to share not only like, okay, yes, I did my homework and these are the actions I took on my goals, but showing up and having a place where you can say, today was a really tough day. And I don't know what to do with my job. This is how my boss is making me feel. And having people be there for you and give you encouragement and not make you feel wrong for whatever is going on or however you dealt with the situation is such an invitation for our nervous system to relax fully. And so when our nervous system feels safer and we're not, at least for that hour and a half of our calls, in the constant fight or flight state, so much can happen. You're able to receive so much more information, tools, a different approach. And I feel like before we knew it, all of a sudden you had a new side job, like your own business that you created, which to me felt like, wait, where did this come from? But I love it. What can we do with that? Do you remember like what that transition was for you?
Yeah. So there was a couple things all happening simultaneously. So I think the weekend I started Mastermind, like the first weekend after our first session, I happened to go for my Reiki 2 certification. So during that, my mentor and Reiki master, she had started talking more about turning it into a business. And that was just not on my radar. That's not why I was in Mastermind. That was not my goal. I really love Reiki and had been using it specifically for my family and our needs, and then for friends. And the reason I wanted the Reiki too is because you can do distance stuff. And I have friends and loved ones on the West Coast who were asking if I could help them. So that's where the Reiki 2 certification came from and why it was important to me. And the reason I was in Mastermind specifically was my book. There was a book, it's been on my heart. I've been wanting to write it and I just couldn't seem to get started. So I had joined Mastermind specifically to have a group of people hold me accountable. And so that's really where the first, I'd say 2/3 of Mastermind, that's where a lot of my attention went to and where I was putting a lot of my energy, in addition to just life stuff. And then in March, so just about 6 weeks before the end of Mastermind, I lost my job and I was trying to figure out what the heck I was going to do next. And in one Mastermind evening, one of our sessions, I had just mentioned offhandedly that one of my friends really liked one of my short stories. It's about a young soldier who has these horrible things happen to him, but through the help of a friend and some family, like he's able to get through it. And that story had been inspired by true things that happened to my grandfather, who did not have a support system. And I think that that really hurt him. And so in my rewriting of my grandfather's story, I found a lot of healing for things that have happened in our family. And I found a lot of peace that I hadn't been able to find previously. So one of my friends had just been reflecting about what a great tool that was and how she felt that I could use that to help other people. So I mentioned that in Mastermind, and before I know it, we're workshopping how I can turn this into a business. And it was really great. So before I knew it, I had a name, I had an Instagram page, I had a website, and we just got started with Lux and just started working on how to use Reiki and writing to help people heal. It was very quick and very magical. And I feel like I was really just along for the ride. I don't think it was really my doing. It was just a bigger plan that just got kicked off and started.
That's one of the things that I love about Mastermind is that you can come in with an idea or even just something that you've been working on for yourself or just on the side. And once you share it and you see how other people are also curious or want to know more or want to session with you. And with my guidance, I always love to come up with like, okay, how can we bring things that really light you up and also make a living off of it? Like help people share your gifts with the world and let's make it into a side thing while you're still working a 9 to 5 and bring in some additional income while you're still sharing your heart with the world. And yeah, that's how it unfolded for you. And before you know it, you're hosting workshops and you also, I'm a quick person where it's like, okay, this is my idea. Let's do it. And that's how I work with my clients as well. And you're someone who went at that speed too. And right away, you're like, okay, there's this art gallery that hosts events. Let me talk to them to see if they'd be open to having me host this rewriting your story workshop. And it was a huge success. It was so healing for folks. And since then, you've been hosting them on a regular basis. You have another one coming up, right?
Yep, on October 5th. Yeah. So I've hosted a couple in person. I've also hosted a couple online. And I've also started providing it as a one-on-one service too, because I know groups are not for everyone. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's been really wonderful to see how many people can really get some healing from just some Reiki and working on some creative writing. It's been wonderful to just watch that happen for people.
So when you started Mastermind, you were starting a brand new job. In the middle of Mastermind, you were let go, you started your own business, but then you also got rehired by a previous company, right?
Yeah.
So there is a lot of change happening in the 6 months, in addition to dealing with family stuff and your son and all of that. What are some intangible results that you got? Had you not been in Mastermind, what do you think would have happened given all of these changes that were happening in your life during that time?
So I am someone who is very committed to like mental wellness and mental health. So I do have a therapist and I do think like I would have made it through that time period without Mastermind. However, I don't think I would be 11 of 12 chapters into my book. I don't think I would be running my own business right now. And I don't think that I necessarily would feel as confident in the world as I do right now. I did a lot of communal healing in Mastermind that I've never really had before. I just felt very supported and seen for who I actually am. and celebrated in a way that I have just not had that experience elsewhere. So that has made a total shift in how I approach things, how I interact with others. And even now, being almost 6 months out of Mastermind, like there have definitely been some long-term changes for the better in how I deal with life. And I'm so grateful for that.
Can we dive a little bit deeper to the healing work? Because I think that's something that makes Dream Bigger Mastermind unique, where there is such deep healing that can happen in our group if people are open to it. And I mean, let's be real, whoever says yes to it, they are open to it. And because when you're working towards your goals, you will come across some blocks. You will come across that frozen state where maybe you don't take action or old stories come up. And for you, you are such a great cheerleader. Like in our group, you were always so positive with everyone and encouraging. And whenever people were feeling down, like you just helped to lift them up. However, when I was working with you one-on-one, because you also get private sessions with me in Mastermind, I felt that it was important for you to put aside that cheerleader, the part of you that's always, this was one of my coping mechanisms as well. Everything's fine. And always coming across as happy. And for me personally, like giving permission to stronger emotions to have a voice as well. That allowed me in doing that work to have stronger boundaries, to feel more comfortable saying no, to not worry so much about what other people are going to think, given what I do. Can you relate to any of that?
I can relate to all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And how uncomfortable it is to put down that
So
mask. It's so scary.
Yeah, and I do find that I still reach for that mask quite often. That's just one of the ongoing things I have to work on as a human being. I think that's one of my big lessons this lifetime, just learning how to show up more authentically as myself and not being afraid of what people will see when they see the real me. I was raised to be a people pleaser. I always say I'm a recovering people pleaser. And for me, there is a lot of comfort that comes in the ease of just smiling through things. It is far more uncomfortable for me to be like, yep, I'm having a crap day and I just don't want to do this right now. So it's been interesting trying to like get over that hump. And I would say I'm definitely making progress, but I still have some way to go.
You definitely have made a lot of progress when in Mastermind and even before, because we've continued to work together since Mastermind. And yeah, our brain loves habits, routines, what we've been doing for our whole life. Like it knows what to expect. So when we do something new, when we create a disruption, when we reinforce a new belief, a new pattern, I almost see it as a child, like a little kid throwing a tantrum, like, I don't want to. No, no, no. And what your brain is trying to do is keep you alive. It's seeing this new way of showing up as dangerous because it doesn't know how people are going to react and it can't predict. And so it nudges us to continue the same way that we've been showing up. But if that hasn't been working for us, if that's actually creating tension in achieving our goals, we've outgrown that. And so I also want to celebrate you recognizing that and leaning into the discomfort of showing up differently, of not pretending, but actually stating, I'm not feeling good today, or I'm actually not happy with our relationship. I'm tired of carrying the weight, like really speaking your truth. And yes, especially if we've been showing up the other way the whole time, it can be shocking to people in our life when we're actually speaking the truth because it's confusing. It's like, wait, this whole time I thought that you were happy with how things were going. And now you're telling me you're not? So it is a process. But the more we do it, the more evidence that our brain has, like, oh, okay. So people might get hurt, people might get mad. But at the end of the day, we really have to put ourselves first. And I think that you are such a beautiful example of that. As we mentioned, you're a single mom. You have a lot of commitments in life. You have your 9 to 5. You have your own community that, you're a big part of that But I've seen you, independent of how rough the day has been, you still showed up like 99% of the time to mastermind. What inspired you to do that? What's your drive to show up even when things are so hard and maybe there's a part of you that wants to give up or bail? Or is that even a thought that crosses your mind?
Oh, it's absolutely a thought that crosses my mind. I would say about 90% of my life, I'm like, I don't want to do this today, but I show up anyway. And sometimes it's out of some sort of feeling of obligation. Sometimes it is out of curiosity about what's going to happen next. With Mastermind, though, it was mostly this was like the 1 hour and a half, 2 hour part of my week that absolutely we were devoted to each other's growth as well. So it wasn't just about me, but it was like a spot where I could really let myself just be myself and I could show up and even if I showed up and didn't say much, like I still felt appreciated. And it wound up just being this very safe space in the week. We have off weeks in Mastermind. It's not every single week. And I would miss the off week. I would just, I wish we had Mastermind this week. So I think I only missed like a handful of sessions. And it really was like one. We were in the hospital with my son. He had an emergency. So obviously, and then another time I was really sick and I couldn't even like lift my head off the pillow. So, but other than that, it really was a commitment to just having that time and also holding that space for each other because we did become this little community of women who were just cheering each other on. And I was excited to hear about what each of them had gone through during the week. It was really a very special time and a very special group.
Another thing about Mastermind that I always love, which just reflects the magic of it, is that the groups always form in a way where there's a mirror in there. And what I mean by that is that there's someone in the mastermind that either has a similar goal or just a lot of similarities with you.
Mhm.
And so there were two writers in the group, and it was also beautiful to see you and Juana like really supporting each other and almost like you acting like a mentor in the writing because you have so much experience with that and holding each other accountable in that way and sharing notes and all of that. It was just amazing to see that. And it's one of my favorite offerings. I mean, everything that I do, I love, obviously, because I make them up, but
Right.
just all of the growth and the magic that happens and the transformation, like from where people start from day one, is life changing. And you really can't go back to being that old
Mhm.
version of yourself because so much happened.
Mhm.
So, just to wrap things up, Kate, who is the Kate today after like a year since we started Mastermind?
Oh my
And what
gosh,
is
what
she
a
doing? We also want to
big
know like
question.
how we can work with you.
What a big question.
I know. I'm telling y'all, I don't do anything light here, even on a podcast interview.
That is true. That's her fire sign in her. Sun and moon, right?
Yes.
That's an interesting question. So I think that the Kate that is showing up today is still just as flawed as the Kate that was starting Mastermind a year ago. However, I'm far more comfortable with that. I feel a lot less pressure to be perfect and more just to be honest and authentic. The Kate from a year ago was hoping to at some point see a Kate like this in the future, but probably thought it was decades away because I just have always felt this pressure to be good and do what's right. And well, I still do what's right the best I can, but just this pressure to be as good as possible. And now I have a load of laundry I haven't folded in a couple of days. And I took some extra time this morning to just play with my dog instead of like get my errands like all sorted out. So I definitely have slowed down a little bit and have tried to enjoy life more. And even over the summer, I did kind of go through a little bit of a depression episode, and where normally I would just kind of shove that down and just keep powering through. I allowed myself to just feel that and be in that and to just really heal from it, which is definitely something I've never done before. So I like the Kate that's here. I'm excited to see where she goes next, and I'm really excited to continue growing. As far as what I've been up to, I still have my 9 to 5, which I enjoy, but I have also really started doing a lot more with Lux. That's my Reiki and writing business. So I've got a whole bunch of different offerings for all different budgets and schedules. Most of it's online so that people can join from anywhere, but there's a full schedule of events on my website, lux-healing.com.
Going back to the Kate that you are today, as you were describing who you are,
Mhm.
I just felt your inner child finally feeling safer and loved and
Mhm.
accepted. And that's
Definitely.
why you allow yourself to fully experience life and not just keep busy and feel like you have to do everything perfect. A lot of the perfectionism comes from that fear. At least this was my personal experience of getting in trouble if I didn't do things
Mhm.
right. And so it just follows us,
Definitely.
right? And
Mhm.
all of this pressure. And in our current life, like maybe no one even has that pressure on us. It's just us. And so for you to be today in a place where you're looking at the laundry and you're like, yeah, it's there. That doesn't mean that I'm failing as a mom. It doesn't mean that I'm a terrible person. It just means that I need a break and I just want to relax and do something that brings me joy and whatever. The laundry, we'll get to it at a later day. And that's it. We're not going to make it mean anything more than what it is. So
Exactly.
congratulations on that. That is
Thanks.
huge growth. And I can't wait to read your book. The fact that you have
Mhm.
11 chapters now, like, can I
Mhm.
please get like the script so I can
Yeah.
continue reading? She's such an amazing writer. If any of you have been wanting to write a memoir or just any story, she's an amazing coach. And the beautiful thing about it is that she brings in the healing into it. So she uses Reiki to help you feel more confident and relax and move some of these blocks so that you're able to tell your story with more ease. So we're going to have all of Kate's information in the show notes for you to reach out. And she also has Reiki workshops and all of that. So make sure you also follow her on Instagram. Kate, you're amazing. I love you. I'm so proud of you. And for those of you who are curious about Dream Bigger Mastermind, I invite you to reach out. I do free calls, just like Kate said. If you have any questions, if you want to know a little bit more about it, a lot of the information is on my website. So a lot of the basic info on when does it take place? How much is it? How many sessions? All of that you can find. But if you're still feeling a little nervous, I also have different payment plans available for folks depending on what type of financial support you need. So don't be shy, reach out. Let's start to move some energy because we want you to be like Kate a year from now, feeling more confident and that much further in her goals and your goals and being out in the world, being your authentic self. Thank you everyone for listening and we will be in touch soon again. Bye.